In this video, I'm going to show you a really quick, easy way to make a lined zipper bag. All you need is your outside fabric, your lining fabric, and a zipper. Your zipper needs to be nylon, and it needs to be 2 inches longer than the edge that it's going to be sewn on. That way we can avoid all the metal parts and just sew right across the zipper. It'll be really quick and easy, so pick some cute fabric and let's get started. All right, so we're starting with 4 pieces of fabric. They're all the same size. We've got 2 here for the outside, 2 lining pieces for inside, and these are about 5 1/4 inches each. So they're all the same. I've ironed them so they're easy to work with. And what you want to do is set these aside. Now these are 5 1/4, and I'm using a 7-inch zipper because I want it to be longer. I want the stops to go off the edges on this so that we don't have to bother with working our way around those metal pieces. These are acrylic zippers that I use. You don't want your stop to be in here where your zipper foot's gonna, where your needle's gonna hit it right there. It'll break your needle. We want it off the edge on both sides. All the metal parts are out of the way. This is a 7-inch zipper, and the way I know that is, first it says 7-inch when I ordered it, but also the way you measure a zipper is from the top stop to the bottom stop, which is around 7 inches. So those are the measurements we're looking for. And we're going to start by placing the lining face up. And because I like to use glue, glue is great, I'm going to put this underneath it to keep it nice and clean. My ironing surface. I put a little, I just want glue at the top edge there, so it's good if I cover that with paper. It just kind of keeps it clean, makes it faster because you could just do it quickly. So I've just got the glue right there along the top. I'm going to take my zipper, it's face up, so that means the pole is facing upwards, and put this up at the top like so, and just press it for now into place. It may shift a little bit, but don't worry, we'll get to the point where we'll iron things in place. So there's that. Then we're going to run some more glue above that on the top edge. And you're going to put your outside fabric. Make sure it's in the direction you want it. So you don't want your birds upside down or whatever you've got. So I want to make sure my birds are facing the right way. Up so the top edges are all together and the side edges are lined up. Just press it into place gently with your fingers, and then you can take your iron and iron directly onto the fabric. Don't iron directly onto the zipper tape. There's a chance it's a polyester that can melt, and that'll be messy and ruin your zipper. I like to iron it so I got a good crease right there along the edge of the zipper so I can see that when I'm sewing. So that's the first part. It's glued in place. It's not going anywhere. The glue is great. And then we're ready to take over to the machine and stitch that in place. All right, so I've got that lined up under my zipper foot. And what I've noticed is my zipper pole's still kind of in the way. So I'm going to show you a little trick if your zipper pole is bumping up against your presser foot. Open this up very gently. Pull your zipper down just a bit. You don't want to dislodge your nicely glued fabric. Now you can just put that zipper foot right there at the beginning and do a quick little back stitch. I'm going to move along here, and then what I want to do is reach in there, now that I've gotten past that end point, is reach in there, find that pole, and then slide it back up carefully so you don't rip your glue out, and then just keep going. So I'm going to go all the way to the end. Quick back stitch. And so that's ready for the next step. Okay, when I'm working with zippers, I like to kind of trim my threads as I go. Otherwise they can get stuck in the zipper teeth. So let's get that out of there. Okay, and so this first part's done. So you can kind of see where we're at here. What you want to do, we're getting ready to do the next part, is pull it so it's all on one side of the zipper, like that. You can kind of see where we're going here with this. Then repeat the process, but this time your fabric is included in your zipper, so don't let that distract you. Lining goes down. We're working just at the top edge of everything. Put some glue there, just at the top edge. You don't want it to spread down further, or you can see it on the outside and it gets kind of messy. All right, now let's make sure our sides line up, and we're going to go all the way up to the top, like that. Just finger press it in place for now. Make sure your sides are lined up. It wants to move. That's okay. We'll take care of that the next step. And get some glue along that top edge of the zipper, just across the top. Don't go off these sides. You don't need it. Okay, now let's put our birds in place, our bird fabric. And that goes all the way to the top edge of the zipper. The bottom's not going to meet up. Don't let that distract you. We're working with just this top edge. We want them lined up. That looks good. Now before the glue starts drying on its own, we want to heat set it with the iron. So kind of hold it there. And then I kind of do a little more pressing along the edge of the zipper. That crease is really helpful to guide you when you're sewing. So that is ready to go. All right, when I set this in place both times, unless you didn't notice, the zipper is facing upward. So that way you can really feel this edge. Place that there at the very end. Back stitch all the way to the end. See if we can get to the end without having to lift it. Yep, just made it. Okay. All right. All right, so now the zipper is in place. We want to open it up on both sides like that. So if you look, you can see the whole zipper teeth portion on both sides like that. What I like to do, because I'm using glue, is I'll give it a good tug on both sides, because I want to just pull back any glued areas to get it unstuck. And what I like to do when I'm making these is a top stitch right here along this edge, because one thing that is really frustrating is when you zip and unzip something and the lining rolls up and gets stuck in the zipper. This, if we do the top stitching, will keep that from happening. It's a great little step to include. So we're going to take over the machine and I will show you how to do that. I'm going to leave my zipper foot on, because it'll help me get my needle as close to the edge of the fabric as I want. I want it really close to this edge without falling off onto the zipper. So I moved my needle over just a smidge, and it is right there on the edge. I'm going to keep this part of the presser foot right next to the zip the whole time without jumping up onto it. So this edge right here hugs the edge here. So I'll do a quick back stitch. And then what I do when I'm doing the top stitching, I grab both sides and kind of pull them away from each other so that I know that it's not rolling into the zipper. It's falling off the edge a little bit. Let me go over just a smidge. Right there. Okay. And then I'm just going to turn it around and do the same thing on this side. Here, starting at the beginning. Oh, see, that's in my way again. Let's see, it might be easier this time to actually move that zipper pull out of the way. Let's do that. Okay. just want to go a little bit down here, and then I'll move that zipper back in place because I really want to be able to pull those sides apart from each other. So I'll lift the presser foot up, slide that back. There we go. You can see where I popped off the edge on this one. I want to keep that from happening this time, so I'll try to be careful. Whoop, went off the edge. Next time I'll move my zipper needle a little further away from the zipper. Okay. I'm liking that. So now you can see with that top stitching that it holds the fabrics down flat, and this is the nice part, is the lining lays really flat. It's not wanting to roll, otherwise it sometimes wants to roll over there and get stuck. It's going to lay nice and flat the whole time. So I'm going to keep trimming these threads as I go. Otherwise they want to get in the way and get stuck in your zipper teeth. And that's kind of a pain. Let's clean it up just a little bit. Sometimes I'm a clean cut as I go, and sometimes I wait till I'm done. But this one, it's good to get these out of the way. Okay, so these are nice and flat. My birds are all facing the right direction. And now I'm going to take this and put my pieces right sides together. So the lining is right side together with the lining, and the outer fabrics are right sides together, facing each other. When I do my zippers, I just start on one side. I do one side at a time because I really want to be accurate and not in a hurry. So the first thing I do is make sure my corners meet up and pin there. Do the same thing here. Pin your corners together first. Now we're just doing this one portion right here, so don't worry about the rest of this. We are just dealing with this one side. So make sure it's laying flat, and do another pin about halfway up the side. Another one right here. Okay, now comes the tricky part. We've got to deal with this zipper because it wants to go this way, which obviously you can't, or you've got this big bump of fabric. And same thing, if it goes this way, you've got this big bump of fabric. We actually need to fold it in half like this. When you fold it, you can see that the zipper portion of it is down here at the lining, and the edges of the zipper tape are up, facing into the outer fabric. So if you get that folded together nicely, you can put a pin right next to the zipper. You don't have to go through the zipper because this will keep it from shifting. So just like that, and you can put another one. I'm going to put another one on this side of the zipper too. It'll make it behave. It wants to wiggle. Okay, so that's ready to sew. We're just working on this edge right now. All right, I've returned my regular presser foot in place, going with the 1/2 inch seam allowance line, or 4/8 inch. Same thing, but you got to know how it's marked. I'm lining that up. I'm only doing this edge. Don't forget a good back stitch at the beginning. Okay, we're going to go along that edge. Take out our pins. Okay, now as we come up to the zipper, we want to make sure, let's lower that, make sure it's still laying flat, like so. I'm going to keep it in place, gently stitch up to it. I'm going to pull, it wants to be cranky right at the edge because it's thick. So we just want to, let's get over so the needle's in there. So now the needle's in the zipper tape, so it's going to hold it in place for me. I'm going to take those pins out, lower my presser foot, and go very slowly over the zipper. If you go too fast, there's a chance you can break your needle, and that's kind of scary. So let's go nice and slow. Because it's vinyl, it should go through nicely, slowly, over there. Now we can just keep going to the end. there's one side. All right, first side is done. And now we're going to go over and do this side. So what we need to do is start pinning it, but first we've got to get that zipper out of the way. You don't want to sew it here with your zipper pull on this side, because we're going to cut these tails off and your zipper pull will be gone. We want to put the zipper pull inside. So open it up so you see both of the right sides of the outside fabric. Slide your zipper in, maybe about halfway at the most, and then put your fabrics back in place. Do the same thing we did before, where we're going to line up the corners with the corners. That's the most important thing to really get it accurate. Lay it nice and flat. Another pin right there. Okay, now come down here to the corners on the lining. Line up those corners. Nice and flat right there. Okay, now this zipper part is a lot easier because we're just going to lay the zipper flat like that. And if you look, the zipper part of it, where the teeth are down facing toward the lining. You don't want them flipped up, so they're on the outer fabric. Flip them down. You'll see the metal pieces right there facing downward toward the lining. And make sure those metal pieces are together, that they're not offset like that. So that's how you can tell if you have it lined up right. Make sure those metal pieces are together. Lay it nice and flat now. And then go ahead and pin. Should be a lot easier to pin right through the zipper tape this time. Double check these are lined up. And that side is ready to sew. All right, so we're going to sew that side the same way, but this is actually easier because the zipper is laying flat. So we're going to the 4/8 inch line, back stitch to the beginning, and move the whole length. Nice and flat. Let's make sure that stays nice and flat. We don't want it flipping over. Check the other side. Yeah, make sure it's all the way up to the zipper tape. Now, let me pull this out so that way. Don't have to worry about that. Kind of pull the fabric to keep it straight. Go slowly over the zipper teeth. There we go. All the way to the end. Okay. All right, so that side's ready to go. And I'll show you what I do next. Okay. Both sides are sewn. I know that the zipper pull is inside, so I'm not too worried about that. I'm going to take some junky scissors and just cut those tails off, just even with the fabric. Don't use your good scissors. Just use some yucky old ones. Just cut those off right at the edge. Get them out of the way. And now you want to reach into the right side and unzip it the whole way. Now where's my zipper pull? There it is. And it's all the way open. I can tell, oops, no, I actually closed it. Good thing I check. So there we go. I check by putting my hand all the way through. There it is. So it's wide open. Now I can start sewing the bottoms together. This one first. So let's do that. All right, we're going to sew the bottom of the main outer fabric closed now. Just use a 1/2 inch seam allowance like on the other ones. Do a good back stitch there because we're going to trim those corners. We want a really good seam. I do a back stitch where it meets the other seam. And take that out and do the next step. Okay, time to trim those corners off. So right here where they intersect the stitches, I put my fingernail right there so I don't accidentally cut a hole in my bag. So that way I stay outside of the seam. So put that there to block it. Trim that one off, and that is good to go. At this point, I turn it right side out. reach in there and just push the rest of it through like this. Okay. So I want to get those corners out, so I use my little pointy tool to gently push those corners out so they're nice and square. I don't want to get too aggressive. And do the other side. Get both corners. There we go. All right. For my bags for the beginner lessons, I just sew straight across the bottom of the lining. So I make sure it's nice and flat with the seams on each side like this. Don't accidentally put it together like this. Make sure your seams are on each side. It's nice and flat. And go ahead and put a couple pins in there just to keep it from lifting up like that. Now we're ready to sew this part shut. All right, 1/2 inch seam allowance right across the bottom, keeping it nice and flat. Good back stitch, and there's that. All right, so now that that is sewn, what I like to do is just trim up very carefully. Get rid of those hairy little threads. And I trim the seam allowance on the other side here. Make sure you don't cut past your seam. Just about cut it in half. This helps the bulk at the bottom of your bag to be less of a problem. So, looks good. Ready to tuck that in there. And if you want, you can put your, in fact, you can use the stumpy end so you don't get anything. So push those corners in. And then what I like to do is zip it a little bit and stick my finger up under here and push this corner up so it's squared off a little bit more. There we go. Okay. Move everything out of the way. Push my corners out. Zip it closed, and there it is. It's so cute, and it's always a good idea to give it one last pressing. And there you go. I kind of like this side best, but the bird right here. And the fun thing is you can loop on a little tassel or something cute like a little charm here, and these make great little gifts. So there that is, easy and done and cute. Hope you liked it.